and also infrastructure. And so you again come back to, if I'm running the alternate asset category of a fund, I can go and, over a period of 2 or 3 years, maybe assemble $300 million investment in agriculture, or I can do this one transaction over here in infrastructure and get my money out the door straight away. You can see where people naturally lean towards. There's an interesting complication, though, that's been developing in the super sector in Australia. And that's the self-managed super fund sector. We've got $1.7 trillion in superannuation assets in Australia. We've got 550 million of that, $1 billion of that, in the self-managed sector. There's now some 500,000 self-managed super funds, each of which has an average balance a little bit more than $1 million, and with 1 to 4 members. It's an enormous pool of capital, but a capital pool that hasn't really been tapped. The ability to efficiently tap this pool, which does not have the same liquidity demands, may actually provide the opportunity for new capital into agriculture, but this is yet to be unlocked. The issue of food security also adds another dimension to this whole investment in agriculture, because if you're investing from the perspective of food security, you are more likely to take a longer-term view on developing your portfolio of invested assets. The motives for food security are very much driven around production. And because you are focused on production, you're focused on acquiring the right type of assets in the right locations. And so you're likely to have more patience and willingness to accept the realities and gradually build your production-based portfolio. This has certainly been the case with Hassad Food, and where we've recognised at the planning stage that the desired portfolio of cropping and livestock assets would have to be built up over time in order to achieve the required production outcomes that we're seeking. There's no silver bullet in the investment solution in that instance. And although that process is slow and hence more expensive to actually establish your base, for an investor with a multi-decade view, it's actually an appropriate way to go. At FTI, these broader institutional investment limitations are very well recognised, and something that we've been actually spending a fair bit of time on lately to sort of work through where to from here. How do we start to unlock some of these different avenues for capital, increase the transactional capability within the Australian agricultural sector? We're putting a lot of time and expertise in this space. We have a specialist agri division that have been working on it and continue to work on it. And moving forward, one would hope that for ourselves and others like us, that we can actually work towards unlocking the investment potential in institutional, but be it domestic or foreign investment in Australian agriculture, because ultimately that is what we need. We've got a lot of opportunities for us as a sector, but we need to be able to attract the capital into it to be able to recognise and develop those opportunities. Before closing, I'd like to also briefly touch on the issue of infrastructure. As many in the room will appreciate, most of our rural infrastructure is quite aged, and there is intense competition for limited government budgetary funds and allocations for infrastructure upgrades. Our infrastructure has served us very well to date, but as we're entering an era in Australian agriculture, in that whatever we can produce, we are going to be able to sell to our near neighbours, the challenges will manifest themselves. It presents a unique opportunity for substantial investment in new agricultural production by virtue of the demand on our doorstep. But with that investment comes the need for substantial investment in supporting infrastructure. This new infrastructure almost certainly will have to be largely undertaken under some form of user-pays models, because the government coffers are stretched to the limit in terms of being able to fund all the necessary infrastructure across various sectors, both be it rural or be it city-based. And I suspect that we'll see PPP-style models utilised in their financing and ownership. Across Australia, we're seeing government moving more towards being a facilitator of infrastructure rather than actually the party who develops and owns it. And I think this is a trend that we're going to continue to see develop over time. There is a realisation that government is unable to do it all, and we will continue to see the need for innovation in infrastructure delivery. The hard part, I guess, with some of the development in agriculture is that we're going to see some issues develop around local community infrastructure and how we actually overcome that, which is often usually done at the rates-based level, but they just won't have the resources. So, for example, if you're talking a major new irrigation development, say in North Queensland on the Gilbert River, Town X, which is currently sitting there with a population of 200, then trying to support, say, 200,000 hectares of irrigated cropping versus what it's been supporting to date, which is very much just low-value grazing type enterprises, is going to have a very different dynamic in terms of its population base. And so for them, it's going to be a case of, well, how do we then fund the upgrades to sewerage, roads, local hospitals, local schools, and all the other infrastructure. So there's going to be some very interesting elements that's going to play out if we are going to achieve what we want to achieve in the sector. So in conclusion, I believe that we're about to see increased investment activity in agriculture from a variety of institutional type parties operating alongside our traditional farming family model. That model will not disappear. It is very much part of the landscape and will continue to develop and thrive. But we will see increasing levels of institutional investment activity, I believe, in the sector. The debate we are having now around foreign investment is a healthy debate. It's a debate, though, that must be kept in context, and a debate that we must have as a balanced debate in order for Australia to take full advantage of the opportunities that are presenting themselves. It's an exciting future for us, but one we must carefully nurture through our approach and our policy settings in order for this to be fulfilled.